The small village lay hidden deep within the ancient forest. Its true name forgotten. For generations, the villagers never dared to speak it aloud. They only whispered of it as the Village of Shadows. And with each generation came the passing of an old curse. Greater than, when the night falls, do not gaze too long into the darkness. And never answer the whispers from a place where no one stands. Those who entered the village without knowing the taboo never returned. Those who lived there, once they heard the whisper calling their name, would vanish within a single night. No one truly knew what the whispering shadows were. Only that they never left. They clung to this land like a parasite, etched into its soil and blood. Chapter 1. The Darkness in the Old Forest. That night, rain drummed heavily upon the thatched roofs, each drop merging with the wailing wind that swept through the mountains. The storm's voice carried sorrow, like the lament of 1,000 unseen souls. Inside a dim hut, an old woman with clouded eyes sat hunched before a flickering fire. Around her, the village children huddled together, shivering as she spoke in a trembling voice. Long ago, the old woman began, this forest had no paths. No one who wandered deep inside ever returned. They say, in the darkness lived shadows that could speak. They whispered your name, and when you answered, you were never seen again. The children froze, too terrified to breathe. One little girl, unable to resist, peeked through the crack of the wooden door. Outside, the forest was pitch black, thick and suffocating. The trees bent like twisted skeletons, their shadows stretching across the earth like long, withered arms clawing from the abyss. A sudden gust of wind rattled the hut. The fire guttered low, sputtering weakly, and in that fleeting moment, something whispered. Come! The little girl screamed. The old woman seized her wrist in fear, her voice breaking as she cried. Don't listen, don't ever answer when the shadows call. The room fell silent, save for the sound of frantic heartbeats. Beyond the hut, the forest waited, vast and hungry, and somewhere within the storm, the shadows whispered again, calling out names. Chapter 2. The Stranger. By morning, the rain had faded, but the village lay drowned in a thick white mist. The earthen paths were slick, every footprint erased, and the air smelled damp, heavy with the breath of the forest. The villagers went about their routines in silence. They never spoke loudly, as though terrified something hidden in the shadows might overhear. It was then that a stranger appeared. He wore a long gray coat and carried a worn leather satchel. His face was gaunt, but his eyes glimmered sharp and restless, always searching. His name was Hoang, a freelance journalist, known for chasing stories of cursed villages and whispers of the supernatural. Hoang had long heard rumors about the Village of Shadows, but the deeper he searched, the more he realized the stories were veiled in secrecy. Nobody wanted to speak of it, and those who dared never lived long. He entered a small tea house at the village edge. The moment he stepped in, conversations died, eyes darted his way with suspicion and fear. The shopkeeper, a middle-aged man with hollow eyes, placed the teacup down with a loud clack. His voice was low, warning. Strangers should not be here. Leave before the sun sets. Hoang gave a calm smile, pulling out his notebook. I only wish to listen, to hear what the villagers have seen, the whispers in the dark. I won't disturb anyone. His words froze the room. The air thickened. From a shadowy corner, an old woman rasped, coughing before she spoke. Young man, don't awaken what should remain asleep. Another like you came once. He asked questions. Days later, they found him by the forest's edge, eyes wide open, lips still moving, as if still speaking with someone unseen. Hoang shuddered, but his curiosity burned brighter. He discreetly turned on his recorder and muttered to himself. This may be the most haunting story I've ever uncovered. That night, in the rented hut at the village's edge, the wind howled once more. The wooden walls creaked. Raindrops tapped through the roof tiles. Hoang sat by the window, scribbling in his notebook. Then it came, so soft, so close, a voice. Hoang. He froze. The room was empty. Only pale moonlight filtered through the cracks of the window. But the whisper had spoken his name. Chapter 3. The First Whispers. The night in that village was colder than Hoang had ever known. Even with the window shutters sealed, Icy drafts slipped through the cracks, numbing his skin. He sat in the dim room, a weak oil lamp flickering beside him. The recorder still ran, its red light blinking. Hoang pressed the earpiece to his ear, replaying the interview from earlier at the tea house. Among the frightened voices of the villagers, another sound emerged, soft, faint, almost hidden beneath the noise. "Come." Hoang's blood froze. He rewound the tape, listening again. This time the word was clearer. "Hoang, come." His chest tightened. The sound was not a mistake, not static. It was calling him by name. Heart pounding, he snatched the lamp and crept into the hallway. The wooden planks groaned under his feet. The corridor stretched unnaturally long, shadows trembling with the light. And then, so close it felt like breath against his ear. "Step outside, follow me." He spun around, thrusting the lamp toward the wall. Nothing. Yet there it was, a shadow sliding along the boards, impossibly long, stretching past his own outline. The lamp sputtered and died. Darkness swallowed everything. Hoang stood frozen. In the void, the whispers multiplied, dozens, hundreds, layered and tangled, surrounding him on all sides. Come with us, we're waiting." The back door groaned open with a sharp creak. A rush of freezing wind swept in, carrying a stench of damp earth and something metallic, like dried blood. Outside, bathed in pale moonlight, stood a figure, not flesh and bone, but pure darkness, faceless, formless, a silhouette with no detail. It tilted its head, as though listening to his heartbeat. Then it opened its mouth. What poured out was not a voice but a storm of whispers, thousands of voices overlapping, crawling into his ears, into his skull. "Hoang, come to us." The oil lamp shattered to the ground. Darkness consumed everything. Chapter 4. The Abandoned House. The next morning, Hoang rose with dark circles beneath his eyes. Sleep had been broken into fragments, each dream filled with whispers pressing close against his ears. He told himself it was exhaustion, but deep down, he knew better. When he asked the villagers about what he had heard, they turned away, lips sealed. Only a young boy slipped out a trembling answer before his mother yanked him back inside. "If you want to know, go to the end of the village, to the abandoned house. They say the shadows gather there." Hoang followed the boy's words. At the farthest edge of the village, hidden in wild grass taller than his shoulders, stood a rotting house. Its walls sagged with moss, roof tiles shattered and fallen. The door hung crooked, its hinges shrieking when the wind pushed it. A stench of mold seeped from inside, thick and suffocating. Hoang stepped through. Dust swirled in the lantern light. Cobwebs hung like funeral veils. Along the floor, gouges clawed deep into the wood, stretching from one corner to the door, as if someone had been dragged across, resisting to their last breath. The lantern beam swept the far wall. Hoang froze. Dozens of handprints, black, stained deep into the wood, small and large, layered upon each other like a crowd pressed against the surface, desperate to escape. A gust of wind howled. The door slammed shut with a deafening bang. "The new one has arrived." Hoang's pulse hammered. His light trembled over a chair in the corner. And there it was, something sitting upon it. A faint, slouched figure, head bowed, motionless. "Hello." The voice did not come from a mouth. It seeped from the shadow itself, stretching long and liquid across the floor. The darkness bled outward, slow, heavy, pulling itself toward him like a living stain. Stay with us." Hundreds of whispers erupted all at once. The chair creaked empty. The figure was gone. And in the suffocating blackness, laughter rippled, fractured and wrong, shaking the rotten walls of the abandoned house. Chapter 5. The Cracked Mirror. Hoang fled the abandoned house, shaken to his core, yet his steps carried him deeper into the village outskirts, as if guided by something unseen. There, half collapsed beneath the forest canopy, he found a decrepit shack. The door sagged open. Inside, the air was thick with dust and rot. Broken planks littered the ground, and in the far corner leaned an old mirror. Its wooden frame splintered, the glass mottled with black stains. Hoang lifted his lantern. His reflection stared back, gaunt face, sleepless eyes, But then he tilted his head. The reflection did not move. His chest tightened. The mirror quivered with a faint crackling sound. A hairline fracture snaked across the surface. CRRRRK, branching like a spiderweb. From within the glass came a whisper, soft and crawling. "Hoang, we've been waiting for you." Hoang staggered back. The reflection's lips curved into a smile. The mouth opened, wider, until it was nothing but a yawning void of blackness. From within, countless whispers erupted, layering into a hideous chorus. The fracture split wide, and then, a hand, black and skeletal, burst through the glass. Fingers unnaturally long scraped against the air, clawing for Hoang. He stumbled, tripped over broken wood, and fell hard onto the dirt floor. The shadow hand swiped, missing him by inches, leaving behind a dark smear across the mirror's surface, like blood. Thick and permanent. The mirror pulsed, trembling violently. The whispers rose into a frenzy, filling the shack. "You cannot run, you are already ours?" Hoang bolted into the night, heart racing, the sound of the whispers chasing him long after he left the shack behind. Chapter 6. The Dead Return. That night, the sound of the warning gong shattered the village silence. The people gathered in panic at the square, torches blazing, faces pale with dread. Hoang pushed through the crowd, only to feel his blood freeze. A man stood in the center. His hair hung in matted clumps, his clothes torn to rags. His body was nothing but skin clinging to bones. His eyes rolled, unfocused, yet moving, searching the faces before him. A terrified cry rose from the villagers. "It's old Feng. He died 10 years ago." Hoang stared, breath caught in his throat. Feng, or what wore his body, gave a low, rattling laugh. His voice was not human, but a whisper, small yet resonant, so that every ear heard it. "You will never escape us." Chaos erupted. People screamed, scattering in all directions. Some fell to their knees, praying in broken sobs. Hoang stood rooted as the corpse turned toward him. Its neck cracked unnaturally, bending too far, until its empty eyes fixed on him. "Hoang!" The sound slithered through the air, layered with many voices at once. Then, in a blur, the corpse lunged. Villagers shrieked, torches dropped and sputtered. Hoang stumbled back, but not before a skeletal hand brushed his shoulder. A black mark seared into his skin, cold as ice, sinking deep into his flesh. Moments later, the body convulsed violently and collapsed. Black fluid oozed from its eyes and mouth, soaking into the dirt. An elder whispered, trembling, "The shadows have chosen their vessel." Hoang lifted his head, and at the edge of the mist, he saw it. A towering shadow, still and silent, watching him from afar. Chapter 7. The Road Without Exit. That night, Hoang could no longer sleep. The black mark on his shoulder burned cold, the veins around it darkening as if ink seeped beneath his skin. No matter what he tried, washing, cutting shallow into the flesh, it spread, oozing a black substance thicker than blood. And the whispers grew louder, not only in the dead of night, but in the daylight too. They followed him like a shadow, breathing against his ear. "Come, the road is open, follow us." Driven by dread and a twisted pull, Hoang took his lantern and recorder and stepped out beneath the moonlight. The forest swallowed him whole. Mist coiled thick and white. The path stretched endlessly. The farther he walked, the more the village behind him seemed to dissolve into nothingness. On either side, trees loomed like skeletal giants, their branches bending low like hands ready to seize him. The voices grew clearer, overlapping, men, women, children, all speaking at once. "You have come, don't look back, keep walking." His lantern sputtered and died. Only the pale moon remained. Hoang looked down. The dirt road had vanished. In its place, a narrow trail wound through endless fog. He turned to look back. There was nothing, only a wall of blackness, deep and hollow, like a bottomless pit. Heart hammering, Hoang staggered forward. The mist thickened, and with it came laughter, warped and broken, echoing from every direction. Figures emerged, at first, faint blurs, then, shadows shaped like people, too tall, too thin, their eyes blank white, their mouths gaping. They whispered in unison, No way out, no way out. Hoang broke into a run. But no matter how far he ran, the path looped back upon itself. Again and again, he found himself before the same enormous banyan tree. Its roots coiled like serpents, clutching bleached bones in their grasp. And there, beneath the tree, stood a towering shadow, twice the size of a man, head tilted unnaturally, whispering directly to him. "You have stepped into our road, there is no return." Hoang fell to his knees, clutching his burning shoulder. The black veins crept further down his arm, slithering like living snakes beneath his skin. He screamed, but the scream was swallowed whole, devoured by the endless chorus of whispers. "You belong to us now?" Chapter 8. Death in the Dream. The village lay in dreadful silence that night. No dogs barked, no roosters crowed, only the ceaseless wind whispered across the rooftops, carrying with it a weight of dread. At dawn, a scream shattered the stillness. The villagers rushed to the far end of the village and froze. A young man lay dead in the dirt. His face was twisted, purple, his eyes bulging wide open. His mouth hung agape, as though he had died screaming. But what made them tremble most was that even in death, his lips still moved. Faintly, they whispered, like a man conversing with something unseen. An old woman sobbed. It happened again. The shadows came into his dream. Hoang examined the corpse. Upon the man's forehead, dark cracks spread beneath the skin, as if his skull itself was splintering from within. The following night, more fell. 2 villagers died in their sleep, eyes staring blankly at the ceiling, mouths silently murmuring the same phrase again and again. "It called me, I must go." Fear consumed the village. Families huddled together in the communal hall, praying to gods long abandoned. Yet the darkness outside only deepened, swallowing their cries. Hoang, worn and hollow from sleepless nights, struggled to stay awake, but exhaustion overcame him, and his head sank into restless slumber. In his dream, he stood once again on the mist-covered path. Ahead, shadows drifted like mourners in procession, whispering his name in unison. "Hoang, come to us." He tried to run, but the ground beneath his feet turned soft, like thick mud. Pulling him down, hands burst from below, clutching his ankles, dragging him deeper. He thrashed, screaming, but the whispers smothered his voice. From the mist ahead, a face emerged, not human, pitch black, featureless, except for a gaping mouth stretched unnaturally wide. From it poured the whispers, endless and cold. "You belong to our dream now." Hoang woke with a violent gasp. Drenched in sweat, his heart pounded, chest heaving. Then he looked down. On his ankles, where the dream hands had seized him, black bruises spread like fingerprints burned into his flesh. Chapter 9. The Curse of the Ancestors. After so many deaths, fear suffocated the village. Whispers spread that the curse was stirring once again, stronger than ever. Hoang sought out the oldest villager, Madam Man, nearly blind and frail, living alone in a shack at the forest's edge. Though her body was weak, her voice carried the weight of generations. When Hoang asked about the shadows, she fell silent for a long time. Finally, she began to speak, her words trembling like the rattling of bones. 300 years ago, our ancestors committed a sin that can never be forgiven. A band of beggars wandered here, hungry and desperate, but the villagers were selfish. They bound them, buried them alive beneath the great banyan tree as an offering to the forest god. Her voice faltered, then she leaned closer, whispering as though the shadows themselves might be listening. But famine worsened, and so, they sacrificed their own, the weak, the children, buried alive alongside the strangers. Their cries, their screams, their tiny voices choked with earth, never faded. They became the shadows, souls without faces, forever whispering, forever calling others to join them. Hoang's stomach twisted. His mind flashed back to the colossal banyan tree he had seen in his visions. The same roots, the same soil, the whispers were pulling him toward it. Madam Man grasped his hand with claw-like fingers, trembling. "You must not search further. If the shadows know you seek their secret, they will come for you." Hoang swallowed hard, but his voice was steady. "Is there a way to end it?" Madam Man's lips curled into a dry, bitter smile. There is, but it requires blood to bind the shadows again. A living soul must take their place, willingly. One life, freely given, to seal the curse once more. The words struck Hoang like a hammer. His mind echoed with the memory of hands clawing at him in the dream. Outside, the wind rose, the forest rustled violently, and through the gale came a whisper, faint yet unmistakable. The new one has arrived. Chapter 10. The Keeper of Secrets. After his conversation with Madame Man, Hoang's determination hardened. If there was someone else who knew more, he had to find them, before the curse devoured the entire village. At first, the villagers avoided him, but eventually, an old recluse named Bin agreed to speak. Bin lived alone in a crumbling wooden hut by the stagnant pond. A place few dared to go. They said he was half mad, that he muttered to invisible companions in the dark. That night, Hoang came with his lantern. Inside, the hut smelled of damp wood and decay. Bin sat hunched at a small table, his milky eyes gleaming faintly in the flame. Though nearly blind, his gaze pierced like a knife. "You wish to know the truth?" Bin rasped. "I am the keeper of the village's secret. But once you hear it, you can never go back. It will cling to you." Hoang's grip tightened on his notebook. His hand shook, but his voice was firm. "Tell me." Bin's lips trembled as he spoke. "The stories you heard, of beggars sacrificed, it was worse. The ancestors buried not only outsiders, but their own children. Each famine, each drought, they offered blood to the roots of the banyan. They believed the god of the forest demanded it. And so, children were buried alive beneath the earth, alongside the vagrants. Their cries, their tiny voices, still echo in the soil. That is why the whispers never stop. They are the voices of those children, calling eternally." Hoang's pen scratched across the page, though his hand trembled violently. His mind spun with horror. He remembered the small shadow he had seen in the abandoned house, silent, fragile. Could it have been one of those children? Bin leaned close, his breath hot against Hoang's ear. His voice dropped to a hoarse whisper. "You must leave. Do not dig deeper. If the shadows learn I told you, they will come." Before Hoang could respond, the lantern flame guttered out. Darkness swallowed the hut. A freezing wind howled through the open window, carrying mist inside. The air thickened, and then, shapes began to form. Black shadows writhed across the walls, slithering toward Bin. "No!" the old man screamed, his body jerking as the darkness coiled around him. In an instant, the floor split open into a gaping black void. Shadows dragged Bin down. His final cry was drowned beneath a chorus of whispers. "Traitor, must die?" Hoang staggered back, paralyzed with terror. When the lantern suddenly reignited, the hut was silent, empty. Bin was gone. On the floor lay only a torn, moldy notebook, its pages smeared with black stains like dried blood. Hoang bent to pick it up. The final line, scrawled hastily in trembling ink, read, "They will not let anyone survive." Chapter 11. The Blood Moon Night. That night, the moon rose swollen and crimson, glaring down like a bleeding wound in the sky. The entire village lay under its dreadful light. Doors were bolted, windows sealed with nailed planks. The people huddled inside, praying in whispers, for they all knew, the blood moon was the shadow's strongest night. Hoang sat alone in his small room. Bin's torn notebook spread before him. Every page was filled with symbols, circles upon circles. Jagged characters scrawled in what looked disturbingly like dried blood. Each time Hoang stared at them, whispers echoed faintly in his ears, like children laughing in the dark. Outside, the wind howled like an animal in pain. The ground shuddered as though something massive slithered beneath the earth. Hoang rushed outside, and there, his blood froze. The shadows had come. At first, they drifted like smears across the dirt, but under the red moon, they thickened, forming into tall, twisted figures gliding above the ground. Mouths stretched unnaturally wide, white eyes glowing, their voices a chorus of whispers. From the first house came a scream. A villager burst through the door, sprinting into the street, only to be caught. A shadow wrapped around him like smoke, seeping into his body. His skin shriveled instantly, his face collapsing into bone, leaving only a dry husk that fell limply to the ground. The village erupted into chaos. Screams, cries, the sound of feet pounding against dirt as people fled. But the more they ran, the more the shadows spread, countless figures, sliding through the alleys like a black tide. The moon's red glow only fed them, strengthening their forms. Under its light, Hoang saw clearly. These were not faceless wraiths. Each shadow bore a distorted human visage, mouths splitting ear to ear, teeth gnashing, their whispers booming in unison. Blood? We need blood? Hoang's hand shook as he tried to raise his camera, but his body refused. His knees weakened as a towering shadow glided toward him, long arms reaching, claws stretching. Just as it lunged, a shout broke through the night. Back! It was Madame Man. She stood trembling, clutching a strip of red cloth marked with symbols. Flames erupted from it, casting a glow that forced the shadow to recoil with a screech. She leaned close to Hoang, her voice hoarse with fear. I cannot hold them for long. This night, they will choose someone to break the final seal. If they succeed, everything will end. Before Hoang could answer, every shadow in the street stopped moving. Slowly, in unison, their heads turned toward him. And in the same moment, the whispers grew deafening, filling every corner of the night. It will be you, Hoang. Chapter 12. The Song of the Dead. The blood moon's night ended in screams and blood, leaving the village in suffocating silence. Smoke from incense curled above the rooftops, mixing with the lingering stench of death. Yet no offering, no prayer, could wash away the dread that clung to every shadow. Hoang did not sleep. Each time he closed his eyes, he saw faces in the dark, mouths whispering, calling his name. The black marks on his body spread further, like veins of rot winding beneath his skin. He knew his time was running short. And then, it came. A sound, at first soft, distant, almost soothing, like a lullaby sung from the depths of the earth. A song. The melody grew clearer, rising through the night air. But it was wrong, its tones twisted, drawn out, broken, a hymn of grief and madness, sung in a language no living tongue should know. The voices beckoned Hoang into the mist. He followed, lantern trembling in his hand, until he reached the ancient graveyard. Rows of crooked headstones jutted from the soil. Moss clung to cracked stone. In the moonlight, the graves seemed to bow like worshippers in eternal prayer. And then, movement. From the soil, corpses stirred, first a hand, then a skull, then whole bodies, long rotted, pulling themselves upright, their flesh sloughed from bone, jaws hanging open. And in perfect unison, they sang, "Return, return to us?" The song was thick and hideous, vibrating in Hoang's bones. His head swam, his ears rang with blood. He stumbled, clutching at the air as the hymn poured into him. A skeleton dragged itself closer, clutching his ankle with cold, brittle fingers. From the hollow sockets came a voice unlike the rest, small, fragile, a child's. "You hear us now, you must come with us." Dozens of hands thrust up from the earth, seizing his legs, his arms, dragging him toward the graves. He struggled, thrashing wildly, but the ground itself seemed to open, hungry for him. And in that moment, Hoang saw it. At the far edge of the graveyard stood the great banyan tree. Its roots writhed like serpents, coiling around a black pit at its base. From within the pit came the whispers, not dozens, not hundreds, but thousands, all merging into a single, endless voice. "Hoang, you will be ours?" Chapter 13. The Traitor. After the graveyard, Hoang returned broken and trembling. The shadows clawed not only at his body but at his mind. The black marks on his skin pulsed like living veins, as though something inside him was slowly waking. Yet he was not entirely alone. 3 villagers, brave enough, or desperate enough, to resist the curse, joined him. Their names were Tin, Lan, and Kai. They hid in a bamboo shack, whispering plans by the light of a dying oil lamp. Lan's voice quavered. "If we don't find a way to bind the shadows again, the village will vanish. They'll drag us all into the dark." Tin leaned forward, staring at Hoang. "You've seen more than any of us. You must lead us to the banyan." Hoang nodded weakly. His body was failing, but his resolve sharpened. That night, while the others slept, Hoang awoke to a sound. A whisper, not outside, but inside the shack. He belongs to us now. Hoang's eyes widened. Kai stood in the center of the room, his posture stiff, his head bent at a grotesque angle, bones cracking as it turned toward Hoang. His eyes were pure white, vacant, his lips twisted into a smile not his own. "Kai," Hoang whispered. The voice that answered was layered, distorted, more than one speaking through a single mouth. "I am no longer Kai. I am the guide. You will all follow me into the shadows." With a sudden motion, Kai drew a knife from his belt and lunged. Lan screamed as the blade slashed the air, narrowly missing her. Tin tried to pin Kai down, but his strength was unnatural. It was as if a dozen bodies fought through him at once. He snarled, teeth bared, whispers pouring from his throat. "Blood? We need blood?" Hoang, shaking, grabbed the strip of red charm cloth Madam Man had once given him. He raised it high. The cloth ignited, bursting with searing flame. The fire's light struck Kai, and he let out a monstrous scream, not human, but the scream of many voices tearing apart. Shadows writhed out of his body, twisting, shrieking, before vanishing into the floor. Kai collapsed, the knife clattering from his hand. His chest heaved, his face was pale, lips cracked, blood oozing from his nose. Before his final breath, he turned hollow eyes toward Hoang and whispered, faint but clear, "You are the chosen one, the shadows need you." Then he went still. Lan wept. Tin staggered back, pale and shaken. Hoang stood in silence, the charm still burning in his hand. The whispers had taken one of them already. He knew it would not stop there. The shadows wanted more, and they would not rest until they had him. Chapter 14. The Hands in the Mist. After Kai's death, the village sank deeper into despair. Whispers spread that the curse could no longer be held back, that soon nothing would remain. That night, the mist thickened like never before, curling through the bamboo and smothering the torches. Hoang, Lan, and Tin forced themselves into the forest path, following Madam Man's desperate directions toward the banyan. The silence was suffocating, every branch creaked like bones. The air was heavy, damp, and filled with the smell of rot. Then, movement. From the swirling fog, a hand reached out, black as tar, its fingers impossibly long, scraping the earth as it clawed forward. Lan shrieked. Hoang yanked her back just as the hand dragged across the soil, leaving a deep, smoking groove behind. Then came another, and another. Soon, dozens of hands pushed through the mist, stretching, writhing, snapping branches with ease. They slid across the ground like serpents, clutching at the air, their claws twitching hungrily. Everywhere they touched, the earth blackened, as if burned by fire. The stench of scorched flesh filled the air. Tin staggered back, his voice breaking. "They're trying to pull us down." Before Hoang could reply, the ground split beneath Tin's feet. A massive hand burst upward, seizing his leg and dragging him with terrifying strength. Tin screamed, clawing at the soil, but his body sank fast, half swallowed into the earth. "Help me." Hoang lunged forward, seizing Tin's arms, pulling with all his might. Lan slashed wildly at the black hand with a hunting knife. Each strike spilled black smoke that stank of blood and rot. The hand shrieked and withdrew, leaving Tin drenched in a thick, foul slime. Hoang dragged him to his feet, but already more hands writhed toward them. Hundreds now, stretching, clawing, their nails clicking like teeth. The mist trembled, voices rose from every direction. "You cannot run, you are ours?" Just as the hands closed in, a blaze of red light burst through the fog. Madam Man stood at the path's end, clutching a bundle of burning charms. The fire roared like a shield, forcing the hands back, their shrieks splitting the night. "Run to me," she cried. "Now." They stumbled forward, racing through the burning light. The hands recoiled, vanishing into the mist with furious hisses. But before they reached her, Hoang froze. Through the fog, a figure emerged, not a hand, not a shadow, but something far greater, a colossal body of pure blackness, towering as high as the trees, its eyes glowing white like moons. It opened its mouth, and when it spoke, the sound was not a voice but a storm of whispers, layered into one. "Hoang, you are mine?" Chapter 15. The Gate of Darkness. After escaping the mist, Hoang, Lan, and Tin stumbled breathless into the deepest part of the forest. Madame Man led them with trembling steps, her eyes clouded but burning with urgency. At last, the trees parted, and there it stood. The banyan tree. It rose like a monstrous titan, its trunk thicker than a house, its roots sprawling in every direction like the limbs of some ancient beast. The ground beneath it was cracked, the soil blackened, seeping with the stench of decay. From those fissures came a low, constant murmur, thousands of whispers speaking at once, muffled beneath the earth. Madame Man unfurled an ancient scroll of red cloth, its surface etched with blood-stained symbols. The characters twisted as though alive, crawling like worms across the fabric. "This is the seal," she rasped. "Our ancestors bound it with blood, but the seal is failing. If it breaks," her voice faltered, "the gate of darkness will open." Even as she spoke, the ground convulsed violently. Cracks split wide at the banyan's base, glowing with a light that was not light at all, a black radiance, sucking everything into its depth. From the opening poured a thick, tar-like mist. Shapes formed within it, faces, hands, entire bodies of shadows, writhing and screaming. Tin cried out, his voice breaking. "Dear God, it's a gate to hell." The tree's roots twisted, writhing like serpents. Black hands clawed upward from the abyss, reaching for them. Hoang lifted his lantern with shaking hands. Through the swirling dark, he saw them clearly now, the faces. Hundreds of them, pressed against the edges of the gate. Men, women, and children, mouths gaping, eyes white and blind. And all of them whispered his name. Hoang, Hoang. His knees buckled, the mark on his body pulsed violently, veins spreading across his chest like black roots, binding him to the abyss. Lan screamed his name, but her voice was drowned out as the whispers swelled, merging into a single deafening chorus. "You will come to us. Hoang, you are ours?" Hoang clutched his head, his mind tearing apart. For the first time, he understood. This was not just a curse. It was a gate, a prison door, and it was breaking open. Chapter 16. The Caller of Souls. The gate roared like a living beast, its whispers rising into a storm. Shadows clawed at the earth, twisting around the banyan roots, dragging themselves free from the abyss. Hoang's mind was fracturing, the voices pressed into his skull, endless, calling him to step forward. Lan and Tin clung to him, shouting, but their words drowned beneath the chorus. And then, the sound of a drum. Boom, boom, boom. Each strike rang out like thunder, cutting through the whispers. From the darkness of the forest emerged a figure, an old man draped in a black cloak, beads of bone and stone hanging across his chest. His eyes burned with a strange light, though his face was gaunt and skeletal. The villagers knew of him only in rumors. Some said he was long dead, but now he stood before them. "Master Lu, the Caller of Souls. You have gone too far." His voice rasped, low yet resonant, each word vibrating in the air. "This curse cannot be destroyed. It can only be bound again, by summoning the souls themselves." He placed his small drum on the ground, striking it rhythmically as he chanted. The words were not of this world. They slithered like serpents, harsh and broken, as though echoing from the abyss itself. The earth shook. The shadows shrieked, their forms twisted and convulsed, revealing their true faces, faces of those buried alive long ago. Skinless, hollow-eyed, mouths frozen mid-scream. Hoang's stomach churned. Lan collapsed to her knees, covering her ears, as the hymn rattled their bones. Master Lu raised his arms high, blood dripping from his palms as he carved symbols into the dirt with his own flesh. The symbols burned, glowing red against the blackened soil. "Hear me, lost ones," he roared. "Show your form, and return to the seal." Lightning cracked across the sky, illuminating the horror. Thousands of faces writhed inside the gate, mouths opening in unison. Their whispers rose into a single scream that made the trees tremble. "You cannot bind us, we have chosen already." And then, all at once, the countless white eyes turned toward Hoang. He screamed, clutching his chest as the black veins spread across his body. His skin burned. The whispers inside him grew louder, overpowering everything. Master Lu stumbled, coughing blood. Shadows surged upward, massive and furious. A colossal hand of pure blackness reached from the gate, seizing him. Bones cracked, blood sprayed. Even as it dragged him down, he shouted his final words. Hoang, only you can seal them. You must choose. Then the gate swallowed him whole. The drum fell silent. The abyss howled louder than ever, its whispers now screaming a single name. Hoang. Chapter 17. The Final Sacrifice. The gate of darkness rumbled, its maw widening with every heartbeat. Shadows poured out like a flood, twisting around the banyan roots, clawing at the earth in hunger. The air shook with countless whispers, a storm of voices merging into one. Blood? We need blood? Hoang collapsed to his knees, clutching his chest. The black veins had spread across half his body, writhing beneath his skin like living roots. His time was nearly gone. Beside him, Madame Man fell to the ground, her frail voice cracking as she cried. There is only one way. To close the gate, a living soul must willingly offer itself. Only blood, freely given, can seal the curse again. Lan gasped, her face pale with horror. No, that's murder. You can't ask someone to. But Tin's voice broke through, trembling with fear. If no one does it, all of us will die. The world will be consumed. The whispers surged louder, clawing inside Hoang's skull. He could no longer tell if the words were his own thoughts or the shadows speaking. You were chosen, your blood is ours? He looked down at his arms. The blackness had nearly consumed him. He was already theirs. Perhaps he had been since the day he arrived. Madame Man wept. Hoang, it must be you. Only your blood can bind them now. Lan grabbed his shoulders, shaking violently, tears streaming down her face. No, there has to be another way. If you die, they'll take you forever. Hoang gave her a faint, broken smile. My fate was sealed the moment I came here. Maybe I was always meant to end it. The ground quaked. From the abyss, a massive shadow reared up, arms stretching, its voice booming like thunder. Give us his blood, open the way. Hoang rose unsteadily, gripping the dagger at his belt. His hands trembled, but his gaze was steady. He stepped to the edge of the gate. The shadows writhed in ecstasy, their voices rising to a fevered chorus. Yes, yes, now, give yourself to us? Lan screamed his name, but it was too late. With a final breath, Hoang whispered, "Let it end with me." And he drove the blade into his chest. Blood burst forth, spilling onto the cracked soil. Instantly, the ground ignited, crimson light racing across the roots, sealing the ancient symbols once more. The gate shrieked as shadows convulsed, dragged backward into the abyss, screaming in fury as the fissure closed around them. Lan clutched him as he collapsed. Her sobs drowned beneath the sound of the earth groaning shut. The whispers grew fainter, fading into silence. But Hoang's blood kept seeping into the soil, binding the banyan, locking the gate once again. The last thing he heard before darkness took him was the chorus of voices, soft and almost tender. You are ours now? Chapter 18. Eternal Whispers. The gate closed. The monstrous shrieking of the shadows faded into silence, and the ground stilled once more. The villagers emerged cautiously from their homes, believing the nightmare was over. Some fell to their knees in relief. Others wept as dawn's light finally broke through the mist. They buried Hoang's body beneath the banyan tree. His blood had sealed the curse, and on his grave they placed a simple stone, carved hurriedly with trembling hands. The one who gave his life to save the village. Lan and Tin lingered long after the others left. Lan knelt at the grave, tears falling onto the damp soil. Her chest ached with grief, but more than that, with fear. Because even as she sat there, she heard it. A whisper. Lan. Her head jerked up. The forest was still. Tin caught her expression and turned pale. You hear it too, don't you? He whispered. Lan clutched her chest. The sound wasn't carried on the wind, it came from within, crawling beneath her skin, pressing into her skull. We are not gone, we never die. The voices were faint, but endless. They did not come from the banyan, nor the soil, nor the mist. They came from inside them. Lan's breath trembled, Tin clamped his hands over his ears, shaking his head violently. But it didn't help. The whispers weren't outside anymore. They had sunk into their minds. Lan's eyes burned with tears as she stared at Hoang's grave. For a moment, just a moment, she swore she saw his eyes opening beneath the soil, glowing faintly through the cracks of stone and earth. And in her mind, his voice joined the others. "The gate is closed, but we remain." Lan screamed. But her scream was swallowed by the endless, eternal whispering that had already become part of the village itself. Chapter 19. The Journalist's Secret. Hoang's death weighed heavily over the village. Though the gate had been sealed, fear lingered like smoke that refused to clear. Lan and Tin remained by his grave, unable to leave. The villagers whispered prayers of gratitude, but neither of them felt peace. Because even here, even now, the whispers still brushed against their ears. As Lan sat in silence, her eyes fell upon Hoang's old leather satchel lying in the dirt. She picked it up with trembling hands. Inside, beneath his recorder and notebooks, she found a smaller, hidden journal. Its pages were yellowed, the ink smudged, some words blurred by sweat or perhaps tears. Her heart pounded as she read the first lines. "Greater than, I have heard the whispers since I was a child. At night, they called my name. My parents dismissed it as imagination, but I knew they were real." Lan's hands shook. Another entry read, "Greater than, I traced my bloodline. My ancestors came from this very village. They fled long ago, abandoning their own to escape the curse. But blood does not forget. The whispers have followed me all my life because I carry their mark." Her lips parted in shock. Hoang had never told them. He hadn't come here by chance, he had been drawn back, bound by the blood in his veins. On the final page, the words were written in a frantic, jagged scrawl. "Greater than, if one day I vanish. Know this, the shadows cannot die. They only sleep, waiting for blood like mine to awaken them again. When the time comes, they will return." The journal slipped from Lan's grasp, falling into the dirt. Her hands covered her mouth as silent tears streamed down her face. Tin stared at the words, his face pale as death. His voice cracked as he whispered, "So that's why, he was always the chosen one. He didn't stumble into this, he was meant for it." The night wind rose, rattling the trees. Lan froze. From deep in the forest, she swore she heard it, a voice. Soft, familiar, impossibly close. Lan. It was Hoang's voice. Her body trembled. She clutched her chest as fear surged through her veins. For in that single whisper, she understood. Hoang had never truly left. And if he remained, so too did the shadows. Chapter 20. Darkness never dies. Morning came, but the village did not feel saved. The air was heavy, the silence unnatural. They buried Hoang beneath the great banyan tree, the very place where his blood had sealed the gate. On his grave, they placed a rough stone marker, carved with trembling hands. The one who gave his life to save the village. The people wept, believing the curse had ended. But Lan and Tin lingered, unable to share in their relief. That night, the village sank into uneasy sleep. Doors were bolted, incense burned, prayers whispered. For the first time in weeks, some dared to dream of peace. But in the dead of night, the dreams twisted. The children cried in their sleep. Adults woke drenched in sweat, their hearts hammering, their ears ringing with sounds they could not escape. Whispers. "We are still here, we are only sleeping." Lan sat upright in her bed, her face pale, her breath ragged. She pressed her hands over her ears, but the whispers did not fade. They came not from outside, but from within. In another hut, Tin clutched his head, screaming soundlessly as the voices drilled into his skull. Outside, the forest swayed though no wind blew. The banyan loomed, its roots coiling tighter around Hoang's grave. On the stone marker, moss spread quickly, black and damp. When the moonlight struck it, the moss seemed to take shape, forming the faint outline of a figure bowing, whispering endlessly. And then, through the night air, the voices rose together, louder, stronger, endless. Darkness never dies. The villagers stirred in their sleep, tears streaming down their faces. For deep down, they already knew. The gate was closed, The shadows were bound. But the curse was never gone. It only waited. And when new blood came, it would awaken again. They said the curse had been broken. They said the shadows were gone. But the survivors knew better. For when the night was too still, when the silence pressed too heavy, if one dared to listen closely, just closely enough, a whisper would come. And anyone who answered was never seen again.
Like and subscribe to Whispering Dark Tales for more chilling ghost stories.